That was when I was in prison. You want to hear it? I insisted that I was innocent, but the police kept trying to frame me as the criminal, and I even hired a lawyer, but it didn't help. I also had a criminal record, which made it even harder for them to trust me. I spent a long time in solitary confinement for embezzling company money. I don't want you to specify the location of that jail, but the so-called local, rural, robber, murderer and arsonist of a family was in a cell in the jail I was in. I knew about the case because it was on the news every day at the time, but I didn't know the details of this case. Then I happened to be in the cell across the aisle from that criminal. The guy is A, who has already been executed. At that time, A's sentence had not yet been decided, so I was not sure if he would be in prison for life or executed. In Japanese prisons, the windows of death row inmate cells are covered with cardboard so that no one can see inside. The same thing happened to the window of A's cell, and at some point cardboard was put up. So it was clear to me that A was going to be on the death row. When we go to the playground of the detention center, the 5 people in the cell lined up and walk, and that's the only time I get to see A. I knew A was a weird guy. The prison guard is watching us, and even though we're walking in silence, A talks loudly. I wanted Bakara money, so I broke into a house and her mother came home, so I strangled her. And then the daughter came home too, so I strangled her and ate the 2 corpses. Do you know what kid meat tastes like? That was the best. A shouted. A was in a state of excitement at the time. The prison guard comes in and says, "Curb your private chatting," but A did not stop. He was completely crazy. A looked at me and said, "You want to ask me? You want to know how I killed her?" I looked at A and was ready to talk. As soon as I saw A, I was so surprised that I almost sat up. A's entire body is pitch black. I'm not talking about race or anything, but you know those burnt bodies that look like charcoal? It's like that overlaps with A. And only A's teeth are white. I can't even see A's face clearly. I rubbed my eyes a few times. I got a little more normal, and then I saw a pitch black object behind him. Probably a human puppet. It was clinging to A. I can see many thin black streaks, especially on A's neck, and they are wriggling around. The black stuff looks like human fingers. A was talking, but with his eyes wide open. I think he even had a wry smile on his face. He was kind of creepy. I've met all kinds of people, but the ones who kill people, much less eat them, have a completely different shadow aura about them. They are as black as crows. Then, when I thought A was talking to me, the prison guard told me to refrain from private chatting. But A would rant and rave even in his cell. "I killed them. I'm going to be executed anyway." Then I noticed something. Apparently A was talking in his sleep. I guess jail is a place where voices echo, even if you're talking to yourself. One night, however, A's voice started to sound like a desperate "Gah!" To be honest, the screams were so loud that I thought A was being lynched by a prison guard. No matter how crazy A is, he's still talking too much in his sleep. Then I started having nightmares too, and I was sick of it. A short time later, A was sentenced to death. At that time, it was so terrible. When I met A, his eyes were wide open and pissed off, and most importantly, that black aura seemed to overlap a lot. He seemed to be mad. A's body and face are all black, as if they were covered in pitch black. The prison guard who had the reins on A's waist also looked ill. I couldn't stand to watch and asked A, "What did you really do? Why are you always screaming?" "Because it's crazy. A is alone in his cell and he's screaming." A answered my question by rubbing his neck and saying, "I get choked every night. They put me on all fours and put a noose around my neck, and a girl and a mother pulled me down and weighed me down and almost ripped my face and neck off." He answered. I didn't understand what he meant, so I said, "What are you talking about? There's no rope in jail, and no one's allowed in your cell," I told A. Then A nodded and was unusually quiet. "They attack me every night to get back at me. Every night in hell, every night they strangle me like this," A replied, pointing to his neck. A showed me a clear, reddened strangulation mark that looked like the fingers of a hand. Obviously, it was not a dream, but a real finger mark. I was so stunned by this that I said, "Are you sure someone is choking you?" "I don't believe in ghosts at all, but it's a solitary confinement and only prison guards are allowed in there." Who's going to strangle A? A started telling the true story of the incident from that point. Probably a story he never told the police or his lawyer. A was addicted to baccarat at that time and skipped work to play it. When he ran out of money, he tried to break into a house somewhere, but the house happened to be unlocked. A mother and a daughter lived in the house, and the mother happened to be coming home after work that day, and I guess she forgot to lock the door. A lost his reason and killed the mother by strangling her as soon as he broke into the house and took the money. But A used to have a habit of cannibalism. He used to do it as part of some religious ritual, but when he saw the mother he had killed, he suddenly got hungry and couldn't help it. And worst of all, the daughter of the family came home while A was eating her mother. So A, who was lurking in the house, apparently choked the daughter as well, this time biting her to death while choking her. Then, after filling his stomach, A set fire to the house and fled, simply to hide evidence because the bodies of the mother and her daughter were left behind. Moreover, the money that A killed and robbed from them was only about $200, which he spent on baccarat and lost in no time. Well, sure enough, the police came to A's place shortly thereafter and arrested him. I don't know how they found out, and apparently A didn't realize it either, but he was seen killing them and fleeing the house by someone, and he was reported to the police. I thought it was a terrible story, and I thought he was a psycho bastard. And A had a wife and kids. At first, A is very quiet about it, but when the police found teeth marks and bodily fluids on the burned body, he was found to have committed the crime. It seems that the fire A did was also halfway through and failed to erase the evidence. So A tried to get away with the crime by making excuses about his culpability or that it wasn't a planned murder. But it didn't work out that way. I turned to A and spat at him. "I don't feel sorry for you at all." That's all I could say. Because every time A speaks, I see a mysterious hand on his neck. A nodded off the whole time. But though, what I think A is the real culprit is that this guy's eyes were eyes that kill people. You know how some people change when they lose their reason? That kind of guy has a very different look in his eyes. After hearing the story, we were yelled at by the prison guard again. He told us to refrain from talking to each other. After that, A stopped talking loudly. Then A was moved to another detention center. I never saw A again. A little after I left the prison, I heard that A had already been executed. They say the execution was much earlier than normal. It was hanging. When I was in prison, I asked the prison guard about it, and he said they were watching him. And he told me that A was choking himself in his sleep. A was talking in his sleep, screaming. I knew it. The brutal ones are crazy to begin with. When I became a model prisoner, I became friends with the prison guards. We even got to know each other's names and called each other by our nicknames. Surprising, right? They would give me warmth and sympathy across the barriers between the prisoners and prison guards. But there is more to the story. You guys who hear this story think that a black aura was leading A to the death row, usually. The ghost of the person he killed would drive the prisoner to the execution. But after I left the prison, I was curious too. So I did a lot of research on the case. Then I found out that the first person who found the murder scene was the boyfriend of the murdered girls. And his name is apparently the same as that of the prison guard I was friendly with.